Hi, it's Simon and Aaron with Assets and Arbitrage, and today we have a great show for you. You guys said you wanted more technical, scientific, high concept of ideas, so we're bringing them to you.
So yeah, we got some feedback. People wanted us to delve deeper into some of the concepts that we were talking about. So last show we talked about time preference, right? I thought it was a good show, a good concept for people to understand. So we're gonna do like a little shred out of time preference, right? So this is part of time preference, but we're just gonna get a little bit more technical. So what are we gonna be talking about? It is a concept called neuroeconomics. Neuroeconomics. So let's get into it. And a lot of this is going to be reading from the book, but then we will break down the concepts and ways to look at it. So neuroeconomics is an interdisciplinary field that seeks to explain human decision making, the ability to process multiple alternatives and to follow through with a plan of action. It studies how economic behavior can shape our understanding of the brain and how neuroscientific discoveries can guide the models of economics. Okay, all right. So let's go on. So what neuroeconomics does is it combines research from neuroscience, experimental and behavioral economics, and cognitive and social psychology. So as the research into decision-making behavior becomes increasingly computational, it is incorporated in approaches theoretical biology, computer science, and mathematics. Neuroeconomics studies decision by using tools from these fields to avoid shortcomings that arise from single perspective approach. In mainstream economics, it is called expected utility. You'll see it sometime denotated as EU, expected utility. And the concept of the rational agents are still being used. Neuroscience has the potential to reduce the reliance on the flawed assumption by inferring what emotion, habits, bias, and environmental factors contribute to individual and societal preferences. Economists can thereby make an accurate prediction on human behavior. Okay, so we said a lot. We said a lot just to say neuroeconomics is really about decision making. And why is that important when we're talking about investing? I'm sorry, why is that important? It's important because there's the term we know in the Bitcoin community is FUD. Fear, right? Uncertainty and doubt. And I'll add two more: scarcity and lack. So people are making decisions behind this energy, behind these emotions. And so that's why it is definitely important to discuss neuroeconomics and the science behind decision making. What would you like to say about that?
Well, I do want to say a few things. Again, when we have these conversations, just understand that the whole idea of assets and arbitrage, that opportunity that you're looking for, starts here. Everything's a mindset, right? So how are you making decisions in order to gain assets? How are you making decisions in managing those assets? How are you making those decisions in distributing those assets? So we want to talk about these things so that you can find the arbitrage in the decision-making process, not just with your investments, but just in your life overall as well.
Yeah, it is a study. It's a social. I mean, it's a real science. It's a study of decision making, and we're going to get deeper into it. We're going to let's go ahead and a little bit more book reading, and then we'll break some more down. So we talked about this in the last episode. We didn't go all the way into it, but there's a study. It's called behavioral economics, right? So this was a subfield that emerged to account for the anomalies by integrating social and cognitive factors in understanding economic decisions. So neuroeconomics adds another layer because you're using neuroscience.
Right.
Right. So now we're talking about the brain behavior. And we're going to get into that later about how, what parts of the brain and how it behaves and the neurotransmitters, right? So they added a layer using neuroscience and psychology to understand the root of decision making. So you got to understand the root of why you made a decision. And that's what she just said. We're talking about FUD. Are you making decisions in fear, uncertainty, doubt, scarcity, and lack? Where are you making your decision? Okay, so this involves researching what occurs with the brain when making economic decisions. The economic decisions research can cover diverse circumstances. So, something as simple as just buying your first home. In the book, they say voting in an election. Choosing to marry a partner or to go on a diet. So it varies. This is really just it's a fancy way to break down and look at decision making, right? So using tools from various fields, neuroeconomics works towards an integrated account of economic decision making. So we're going to really get into it. Do you want to say anything before, we're going to some more book stuff? You want to talk about anything practical as far as that?
Later on, when you're done making your points, we want to bring up the Time magazine study in 1950, I want to say two, on how Black women, they studied the psychology of Black women, and they used that psychology against us in purchasing items that they feel we would consider to be of value. And this is why we are the number one consumer in the market. Okay. But we'll talk about that a little bit later. I want you to get to your points. I do have a few points, that we want to talk about, including the model of the stock market.
Okay. All right.
Go ahead.
So, like I said, this is, we're just coming straight out the book, but we're going to work with it. So they have a term or how would you call it?
Like a concept?
Yeah, like a concept. They have a concept. It's called decision making under risk and ambiguity. Okay, so let's check that out. So now, I'm just reading straight from the book, and we're gonna go with it. Most of our decisions are made under some form of uncertainty, right? Decision sciences such as psychology and economics usually define risk as an uncertainty about several possible outcomes when the probability of each is known. Okay, when the probabilities are unknown, uncertainty takes the form of ambiguity.
It's ambiguous. It's vague.
Help me. She's going to help me.
It's a broad spectrum.
Right.
It's not specified.
It's ambiguous. It's ambiguous. So I'm sorry I have trouble with that word, you all. It's ambiguous.
The tequila don't help.
I know. It's ambiguous, right? So, but let's run that back, though. When the probabilities are unknown, it takes a form of ambiguity, right?
Right. It's vague. It's very vague.
When you have known processes, right, then it's just a form of uncertainty.
Right.
Okay, so what they say here is you have a thing called utility maximization, right? So this is proposed by a gentleman. His name is Daniel Bernoulli. In 1738, it's used to explain this decision making under risk. Okay, the theory assumes that humans are rational and will assess options based on expected utility. We talked about that earlier. You might see that denotated as EU, expected utility they will gain from each. Research and experience uncovered a wide range of expected utility anomalies and common patterns of behavior that are inconsistent with the principle of utility maximization, right? So that's a different thing. Expected utility and then utility maximization. So, for example, the tendency to overweight small probabilities and underweight large ones. And what we have here is, and we spoke about this, I think in the last show, Daniel Kahneman, who was the Nobel Prize winner in economics, proposed the prospect theory to encompass these observations and offer an alternative model. So we're going to talk about prospect theory, but I want to see what would you have to say about decision making, risk, and being ambiguous and vague.
So anytime I talk to y'all, I'm talking to Black people. Unfortunately, I cannot come from a perspective of another ethnicity, especially ethnicities that have way better advantages than we do.
Okay.
Often our decisions are not the most informed decisions. We just simply don't have all of the information. And this is why we're doing these shows. A lot of times we don't have all of the information because we don't bother to look.
Mm-hmm.
We don't bother to open the book. We don't bother to study it. We don't bother to take time to learn something new. So I want to add something to the neuroeconomics is people have an aversion to wanting to build and develop the neural pathways of their brain. It requires work. And that's why a lot of times people don't want to learn anything new.
Right.
It's why people get stuck in careers, right? You hate this job with everything in your being, but you're scared to learn something new, right? You want to do better for your family. You want to start looking into doing something different, but you don't feel like now having to learn and master something new. So the problem becomes that you're making more uninformed decisions. And when you have an uninformed decision to make, the outcome is going to be ambiguous to you. It's going to be vague. You have no idea what the outcome could even possibly be a lot of the times.
Right.
We were watching a show the other day, influencer on YouTube who gives really good advice.
Okay.
And one of the things he had to say was, you guys keep saying you want this and you don't know what this looks like. What does it look like in your mind? You want something, but do you know what it takes to have that something? Do you know what that looks like? Have you taken the time to think about what it could possibly look like? And then I'm going to ask the question that we all know the answer to. Did you look into it?
Right.
No. Do you have a model or a mentor to help mirror it to you?
Right.
No. Did you look for a mentor? Did you look for a model? No. So you are going to make more uninformed decisions. And I want you guys to understand, as he's talking about all these sciences, you have a subset group of people in society who are studying how unprepared you actually are so they can use it against you.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. That is what they are doing. That's why we're bringing
That's why
this up.
Is the science.
Yeah, that's why they're bringing it up.
But I want him to go into more points, and then we'll start talking into the specifics. We're going to get less ambiguous, and we're going to get more specific in how these things are being used against you and how you can kind of turn the tables back on them.
Right. Okay. So let's get back to the book work. So
Prospect theory, I think.
so we got to talk about prospect theory. Just a quick, this we talked about Daniel Kahneman, who won the 2002 Nobel Prize for economics, right? And we talked about him because he was the one who brought up the study from Princeton about the amount of money that you need to make for happiness, right? So we talked about that, I think, a couple episodes ago. So prospect theory is a theory of behavioral economics and behavioral finance that was developed by Daniel Kahneman and Amos Tversky in 1979. So the theory is cited in the decision to. That's one of the reasons he won the 2002.
The economic.
For economics. So it's based on controlled studies. It's described how individuals assess loss and gain perspective in an asymmetrical. Y'all work with me today, man. Asymmetrical manner. Okay, so it's called loss aversion. So we're gonna get into loss aversion, right? So he is very he's a big influencer in what we're talking about with decision making. So we're going to get a little bit more technical. So there seems to be brain areas involved in dealing with situations of uncertainty, right? So now remember, we got uncertainty and being vague and ambiguous are two different things. So we always got to keep that in mind. So in tasks requiring individuals to make predictions when there is some degree of uncertainty about the outcome. So you have some uncertainty about what may happen.
Over under?
Okay.
That's what it sounds like.
So there's an increase in the activity in the BA8 of the frontal median cortex, right? So
Okay.
I'm sure you guys understand, you know where the frontal median cortex is, the brain, and we'll talk about some different brain positions as well. A more generalized increase in activity in the mesial prefrontal cortex and the frontal parietal cortex. All right, so the prefrontal cortex is generally involved in reasoning and understanding.
Okay.
So let's say that again, the prefrontal cortex. So I'm sure people who are familiar with the prefrontal cortex. It is generally involved in reasoning and understanding. So these particular areas are specifically involved in determining the best course of action when not all relative information is available. So that is making decisions of uncertainty. So what is the prefrontal cortex?
No, we won't.
You don't need it? Okay. Okay. All right. So just understanding that the decision making, right? There's a decision making process, and these are having neurotransmitters, and we're going to talk about that because that's coming up later. Is there anything you want to say about that?
Not yet.
Okay, all right. So, and we're going to talk about the Iowa gambling task. So there was a what would you call it? They were put together to kind of see how people who gamble, how it works in the brain and the different parts of the brain.
They did like a survey. They did like they performed an experiment, basically.
Yeah,
social experiment.
Social experiment to see how people who gamble, how they think and how it affects different parts of their brain. So this
over under.
Yeah, okay. So this is 1994, Iowa. They did this in Iowa.
Okay.
So we'll keep it short. It involved picking from four decks of cards, where two decks were riskier, but they had higher payoffs.
Okay.
Accompanied by heftier penalties. So the payoff is higher, but the penalty is higher. So most individuals realize after a few rounds of picking from the cards that were less risky, okay, they have higher payoffs in the long run due to small losses. So what that is saying, low time preference.
Yes.
Low time preference. You will take your time to build and make your money. Yes, it is a higher payoff on a high time preference, but a low time preference, the people tended to
mitigate the losses over time.
Over time.
And actually gain significantly.
Yeah, because they're saying the payoffs in the decks over long term had small losses. However, it had a higher payoff. So now, however, individuals with damage, and I don't know how you would have damage to your ventromedial prefrontal cortex, but if you have damage to your ventromedial prefrontal cortex, continue picking from the riskier decks. So it's like they continue to take more risk on.
But you know what? Football players who have CTE, when they do the autopsy, a lot of the damage is the prefrontal cortex, right? Car accident victims, because you hit the windshield, you may hit the airbag, you may hit the steering wheel, you may be ejected from the vehicle, and they always tell you how aggressive and how risky their behavior is.
Yeah.
Right? And I know you guys are trying to put together, what does that have to do with crypto and assets and just understanding your behavior, because your behavior will dictate what you invest in, whether it's financially, whether it's how you invest your time, your behavior, your attitude. These things are important. The second thing I want to say is people with money, your legacy families, your families who have generations that have gone to Princeton, Yale, Harvard, all of these Ivy League and high-level school, Wharton Business School. They learn these things in school, which allows them to make good decisions in order to keep up the family legacies, the businesses, how to start your own business and maintain it. They're learning these high technical concepts in order to give them and continue to have that advantage, not just financially, because like I said, we're talking about behavior here and decision making.
This is decision making.
Yeah.
It's fancy. It's a lot of fancy speak for decision making, but it is real science, and these things do matter. Right. So we just talked about the ventromedial prefrontal region of the brain, which is associated with recognizing long-term consequences, right? Long-term consequences of risky behavior And the people are said that the damage to this region struggle to make decisions that are prioritized on the future over potential immediate gain.
Mm-hmm.
Low time preference, high time preference. Immediate gain, high time preference. In the future, low time preference, right? So we'll keep on going. In situations that involve known risk, right? So known risk, you have a risk. Known risk rather than...
Can't see it. The vague risk.
Yeah, ambiguity. Yeah, I always messed up. The insular cortex, right, seems to be highly active.
Right.
So, how would you say it? For example, when the subjects played double or nothing game in which they could either stop the game and keep accumulating or winnings, or take a risky option resulting in either a complete loss or doubling of winnings, right? So doubling down, a very binary thing. It's like when people gamble, you gamble this amount of money to double your money or to lose it all, right?
Right.
This is it's a high activation in your insular cortex, increased when the individuals took the gamble. So it's hypothesized that the main role of the insular cortex, right, is in risky decision making to simulate potential negative consequences taking a gamble. Neuroscience has found that insular is activated when thinking about experiencing something uncomfortable or painful. So, people like pain and pleasure. It's just, you see this with people who gamble and things like that. And unfortunately, and we've talked about this, people who invest, it's like they almost treat cryptocurrency, even the stock market.
The Robin Hooders.
It's like a damn casino, right? It's a casino out here, man. You have to at some point, if you're going to be if you're going to do well at this, you can't have these kind of decision-making techniques and processes, right? You have to take the emotion out of it.
Right.
These people, it is, I want to make this money, so I'm happy, I feel good, and then when I lose this money, I feel bad.
And it's manic. You become manic. That significant up, down, the Facebook posts, hey guys, and stock twits.
Yeah.
Hey guys, what are we buying today? Hey, stop asking a bunch of strangers what you're buying today. But yeah, you become manic.
And yeah, so we're going to keep it. And so as they say, and we're taking it right out the book, in addition to the importance of specific brain area activity to the decision process, there's also evidence that neurotransmitters, so I'm sure you guys are familiar with neurotransmitter, dopamine may transmit information about uncertainty throughout the cortex, right? So you have dopaminergic neurons, and they're strongly involved in the reward process and become highly active after an unexpected reward occurs. Right?
It's a high. It's literally a chemical high.
You're getting high chemically off of your own neurotransmitters. So what would they say? Furthermore, so they're saying, and they've done these studies, of course they do studies with animals, right?
Yes.
So in monkeys, the level of dopaminergic activity is highly correlated with the level of uncertainty, such that the activity increases with uncertainty.
Run that back for me. So the more uncertain the situation is, the higher the dopamine is when they win. I got you. And they're monkeys, right? So I don't know what's going on.
But monkeys are pretty smart, though. Furthermore, they do things with rats. The rats, they have nucleus accumbens, right? Which is an important part of dopamine reward pathway through the brain. So they are far more risk averse than normal rats.
Really?
This suggests that dopamine may be important in mediation of risk behavior.
Okay.
So, the people who want the highs, the lows, we talked about the gamblers. We're talking about animals right there.
Yeah.
Right. And then we have to talk about this. Is there anything you want to say before I go on?
But the number one crucial aspect that you keep touching on is the uncertainty. And you're saying take the emotion out of it, because I want you to get into the basics of the stock market, how it's based on the psychological mind, the fear, the greed index, and how all of that is just a collective study on your psychological makeups.
Well, I used to earlier on. I would try to teach people or mentor them into the stock market.
Right.
And then when I started to realize, I said people don't have the
Patience.
the mental makeup to be in this business.
Oh yeah. Oh God.
And
Yes.
I said, even though you can know the technicals, you can know what's going on, you don't have what it takes to be in this
emotionally.
Emotionally. And that's what I'm about to talk about right now. I'm gonna read a little bit more technical stuff, and then we're gonna get into some other stuff. So we want to talk about an individual. So we're talking about a person who is less. He has a level of risk aversion that's influenced by testosterone. So that, I mean, how would you say that? So it's just the same thing. These are neurotransmitters that give you highs and lows. Right. So you're risk averse. There are studies exhibiting correlation between the choice of a risky career and the book says financial trading business and testosterone exposure, right? In addition, daily achievements of traders with low digit ratio are more sensitive to the circulating testosterone. So sometimes just winning a day trade, as they would say,
a day trade, okay,
gives you a high level. It gives you a high level of testosterone as far as the neurotransmitter.
Gotcha. Right? And that's why maybe it's more attractive to men, and women take less riskier industries.
Right. So as they say, a long-term study of risk aversion and risky career choice was conducted for a group of MBA students. So what is MBA? Masters in Business
Administration.
Administration. Okay.
So they're business students.
So, but they have MBAs. It's revealed that females, in average, they're more risk averse. But the difference between genders vanishes for low organizational and activation in your testosterone exposure, leading to risk-averse behavior. So what does that mean? That means women will take the less risky choice, right?
Yeah,
and
the less risky industry.
And men will take a more risky industry.
It's why women outlive men.
And probably, yeah. Probably so. And because this is important, right? Because we just talked about risk aversion. We're going to have to get to loss aversion, and we have to talk about the difference between them because people use them kind of interchangeably, and I don't like that because they're two different things. We'll talk about it. Do you have anything you want to say before that? Okay, so let's get right into it. So risk aversion and loss aversion. What is the difference? So in the field of behavioral finance, decision making, loss aversion, right? So loss aversion. That's a behavioral phenomenon in which individuals show a high sensitivity to the potential of losses than gains.
Okay.
So, right. So, you're like, well, I have the opportunity to gain something, but the potential for me to lose is heavier with me than the potential to gain.
Gotcha, baby.
All right. So, but when you have risk aversion, individuals have an intense aversion to options with uncertain consequences.
Okay.
All right. So you will take the risk. You're risk averse because your risk aversion might have something to do with your income, your age, and this, that. But loss aversion is somebody who just is worried about losing more than gaining.
Right.
And people use them interchangeably, and they're different. But I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was going to say, and typically I would like to think that your loss aversion would be older people, people who have a lot more capital, who have a lot more assets. Whereas your risk aversion might be more gender based. It could be socioeconomically based. Do you know what I mean? Am I getting that right?
No, the risk aversion is going to be somebody, what you said the first, with your age.
Elderly, okay.
Yeah, with
And
your
when I say
age.
elderly, I don't mean senior citizen.
No, but I mean,
older.
You take those risks earlier, so you have a risk aversion. If you're in your 20s, you can take bigger risks than if you're in your 50s or 60s.
Gotcha. Okay, so
loss aversion is just straight up, I don't want to lose. The opportunity for me to gain isn't enough for me to take this opportunity because I don't want to lose.
Like the versus battle. That's why Jay won't do Nas, because the risk of losing is, I get it. There's nothing really to gain, and I can lose a lot if I lose. I got you. I got you. That's funny.
Yeah, so, I mean, we could go into this stuff a little bit more. I mean, do you want? What do you think?
Well, I do want to bring up several decision-making when we talk about the neuroeconomics. First and foremost, Time conducted a study in the 50s where they observed, that's the word I want to use, Black women, and they interviewed them.
Mm-hmm.
And they wanted to understand, and I want to, when they say make America great again, you got to remember in the 50s, because of the segregation, y'all know I'm going to go on a historical context. Boy. Because of the segregation, the Black community was thriving, right? Don't listen to the stuff. That's why they had the Tulsas and all of the bombings and stuff. They were trying to figure out how they could extract the wealth from the Black community and bring it back to the white community.
And we're going to talk about that one day. One of these days, you guys let us know if we need to. It's a concept called the fourth turning.
Oh, yeah, we need to talk about that.
So we need to talk about the fourth turning because it just talks about seculums and cycles over human history. And we are in the fourth turning currently, but there's the first turning, second, the third, and now we're in the fourth turning. But it's an idea that was brought up. It's a very good book. Check that out. Let us know if we need to talk about the fourth turning. But that's what she's talking about. When they say make America great again, that was the first turning. Yeah. Because it was right after World War II. And that's when America was great. But if you go back and look at empires, they all have these four turnings, and we may need to talk about the fourth turning. They have
these cyclical things, models that they go through that you can study. And
you can study, yeah.
But so they wanted to extract the wealth from the Black community and bring it into the white community. Okay. And you have to understand that they understood that it was through the woman. So what they did was they observed these Black women, they interviewed them, they talked to them because they wanted to observe their psychological decision-making process. Ma'am, when you go to A&S, Abraham and Strauss, I'm showing my age. When you go to A&S and you're shopping, what is it that you're looking for? And they realized that Black people in general in this time period wanted to have the same good quality, fine quality items that white people had. They would read, because all of the magazines were white, the advertisements, television. The Black women wanted to mirror the lifestyles of white women. This is the truth. Argue with your mama, right? When they realized that, they said, oh, okay. So you would choose this fine quality item over a cheaper, more economical item. And when we say cheaper, we don't mean poor quality, because that's the whole point of this study was we're not trying to give you less quality. We just want to know, are you going to go for the Gucci shirt or are you going to go for the Calvin Klein shirt, which is cheaper and more economical, fine quality? It might even be the same quality. It's just that the brand isn't as significant as the brand you would rather choose. And every single time Black women chose the bigger brand. Quality, they just assumed that the bigger the brand, the better the quality, even when they were given the evidence that the quality is the same. We still do that. We're going to do a show on symbols of freedom. But I'm going into all of that to show you that they study your psychological makeup in order to exploit you.
Yeah, that's why neuroeconomics it's a fancy word. It got a lot of definitions, but it's really about decision making. Decision making with your neurotransmitters. How you feel when you make a certain thing. When you buy something, you feel good. Like, oh, I bought this. Or if you make a bad financial decision.
Mm-hmm.
It's really just studying your decision making, your behavior,
Right. Mm-hmm.
how you make decisions, and that's why that's important because we said fear, uncertainty, doubt. No, fear, uncertainty, and
Doubt.
yeah, and
then lacking scarcity.
Lacking scarcity.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, I'm a little bit off.
And then I wanna just kind of take it to the next tier.
Mm-hmm.
For those of you who have ever been to Vegas, he used to go to Vegas. He used to love Vegas.
Yeah,
and I said, I'll come with you.
That's
right?
my
Let's
second,
go.
That's my second.
Right? I'll go. He doesn't gamble and stuff, but he used to be a firefighter. He had a very stressful job. So when he just needs to decompress, babe, I'm going to Vegas. That okay? Sure. I'll see you in a couple of days. And when he finally took me, right, I said, I want to go. I just want to see it because you always tell me all these great things about it. We talk on the phone. And this is before FaceTime, so I couldn't see anything. I don't think you can have your camera on in there anyway. Mm-hmm. Like you can FaceTime me on the floor or anything like that.
Not in casinos.
But this is before FaceTime. This is when we used to just talk on the phone or whatever. So I go to Vegas and I say to him, I can't tell, like, is it 6 o'clock in the morning? Is it 6 o'clock at night? I don't know what time it is unless I look at my phone or my watch. I didn't like the setup where we don't want you to focus on time. We want you to have a good time, but don't worry about what time it is. There's no windows. There's no clocks on the wall. Just like in normal infrastructures that you would go to, blinking lights, the flashing, the bells. You get excited when somebody wins. You didn't even win. You're like, I can hear the bell going, da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Everybody's running, they're jumping up and down. Just money shooting out, the sound of the coins. These are all of the psychological observations they made that get your dopamine levels high to the point where we can get the dopamine level high with the collective group of people in the local area. If you're on this slot machine, there's 20 slot machines here. When yours flashes that red light, you can win $200.
That could be me next, right?
Right. That's what the thought is.
That could be me.
That could be me. Let me keep playing. I'm going to double down. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. And I'm going to go home broke.
Right.
But they use that psychological mindset for retail.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
For food, all of those restaurants, it's always a good time. The glasses clinking together, the frothy beer sloshing over. It is the idea of how can we get you to consume.
Consumption. Yes, it is about consumption, right? And we're going to go into this next.
Let's go.
Next technical part, right?
Go
all right, we talked about it. We talked about it on the last show. It was called temporal horizon, right? But in this book, they have another term for it, but it's kind of the same thing, but we'll run it back, right? It's called intertemporal choice. Okay, so what is that? In addition to risk preference, right? If you have a risk preference, there's another central concept in economics called intemporal choices, which are decisions that involve costs and benefits that are distributed over time. Right. So we're still really getting back to the low time preference, high time preference. Like I said, we will always, these points, they always kind of come back together, right? Even though we bring up different things, they kind of come back together. So in temporal choice, research studies that expected utility, all right, that humans assign that the events occurring at different times. So the dominant model in economics, which explained, is called discounted utility. So you might see that if you're looking at economics as DU. Discounted utility assumes humans have constant time preference and will assign value to events regardless when they occur. Similar to expected utility is explaining risky decisions making. Discounted utility is inadequate in explaining the intemporal choice. So what they're saying is if you have an expected utility and then you have a discounted utility, how would you say? It doesn't...
Is it kind of like time discounting?
Yeah, it's time discounting because if you have a discounted utility, you assume that you can do something like maybe you buy something now and it's worth something later. Expected utility is something like I want to purchase this now and I expect to have some utility and some value
from it now.
Right now. And this is really just breaking, getting deeper into time preference, right? Time preference is very important because it has a lot to do with your decision making.
Right.
If you, I don't know how to say it. We try to explain it very simply, but for example, if somebody told you you had 6 months to live, your time preference changes.
Significantly.
It changes because you're like, oh, sure, I ain't going to be here in 20
Right.
years. So you might do some more risky things.
Right.
You might have a higher risk aversion or
Yep.
something like that. And, if you assume that you're going to be here longer, your
Yep.
time preference changes.
Right.
And this is important in life and in economics,
Yep.
the way you behave, the things that you do.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like we said earlier, when you're younger, you take more risks. Younger people, that's why younger people have high-ass car insurance premiums because they drive. They drive
recklessly.
They drive reckless. They speed and they do all this stuff. And as you get older, you get the lower premiums because you're older. You have a lower time preference.
Right.
So
you're not as risky.
Yeah, it permeates throughout your life, not just through economics,
Right.
but just life decisions.
Because all of this is psychological.
Mm-hmm.
And what people are in denial about, because you're just in denial about it. What people are in denial about is that I'll do this for this situation, but not for that one. Mm-hmm. No, your psychological makeup says you are going to respond and react the same way in every situation. Mm-hmm. And that's what people are missing. Mm-hmm. This is why we are constantly encouraging the idea to get prepared, stay ready. Right? Don't wait for if the opportunity comes up, then I'll start preparing for it. No, that opportunity is going to sail right on by you. Right? Because unfortunately, you take that attitude in every aspect of your life. Financially, socially, personally, in your love relationships, in every single aspect of your life, you are going to react and respond that way. Mm-hmm. It's one of the reasons that I do want to share this with you guys. What we're doing here is typically what he does with me on a one-on-one. Mm-hmm. So this is really my mentoring session that I had suggested as well. Like maybe you do a mentoring session with me, teach me these things, but let's do it on camera. But this is what our mentoring sessions look like. These are the discussions we have. Obviously, our marriage is not super duper exciting and super duper romantic, but it is enriching, right? And that's part of the psychology that we want to share with you. Mm-hmm. Just understanding when you take these roads, when you take these approaches on the left, it will permeate throughout everything within your life. How you shop, how you consume will speak to how you consume your assets. Yes. Argue with your mama. I know what I'm saying.
And like we said, I'm going to bring up, we're going to keep going there because, we got time. We got time. So now let's talk about another thing. So we're talking about neuroeconomics, right? Yes. So neuroeconomics research and intertemporal decisions. Okay. All right. So if you have those intertemporal decisions, it's largely aimed at understanding what mediates the observed behaviors such as future discounting and impulse choosing smaller gains sooner rather than larger rewards later. Okay.
This is different.
We understand that. So we understand what that means. But the process of choosing between immediate and delayed rewards seems to be mediated by interaction between two brain areas. Right. So in choices involving both and the secondary reward, so the first reward and the secondary reward, it is the limbic system. So I'm sure people are familiar with the limbic system. It's a highly active when choosing immediate rewards by the lateral prefrontal cortex, right? So what's the lateral prefrontal cortex? You got the I have a brain upstairs in the classroom.
We can do that for a
different small show. Yeah, I'm sorry. Because I'm bringing up brain areas, and I probably should have had a brain with me. I'm sorry.
But you're saying there's conflict between two parts of your brain.
Yeah.
Which creates conflict and a cognitive dissonance within you.
Right. So you got the lateral. So what's the lateral? It's behind prefrontal cortex, which is kind of like almost double speak, but it's equally active when making the choice. So furthermore, the limbic system, right, of the cortex is decreased as the function of the amount of the time until reward. So you have all these things going on in your brain, right? Mm-hmm. This suggests that the limbic system, which forms part of the dopamine reward pathway. Is the most involved in making impulsive decisions. Impulsive. Let's double underline that word. Impulsive decisions, while the cortex is responsible for the more general aspects of intertemporal decision process.
So your prefrontal cortex is your logical linear station.
Right.
And then the limbic system is actually your crack high, hence the dopamine, right? And what's happening is when it's time to make that decision, people, I guess the limbic system often wins because of that chemical high.
The chemical high, yes, indeed. And now we're going to talk about another drug. Why not?
Let's do it.
Why not? So we're talking about neuroeconomics, right? So neuroscience, neuroeconomics, the neurotransmitter, serotonin. I know you guys are familiar with serotonin. Seems to play an important role in modulating future discounting. So they do these experiments on rats, and rats reducing serotonin levels increases future discounting. So future discounting means I'm willing to do this now to get something in the future, right? Future discounting, while not affecting decision making under uncertainty. So you get back to uncertainty and ambiguity. Vagueness. So, but they're two different things, but people kind of make them interchangeable. So it seems that while the dopamine system is involved in probability, uncertainty, serotonin may be responsible for temporal uncertainty, since delayed rewards involve a potential uncertain future. So, in addition to neurotransmitter, intertemporal choices is also modulated by hormones in the brain. In humans, the reduction in cortisol.
Okay, that's stress.
Relayed by the hypothalamus, right? So we all know about the hypothalamus in response to the stress. It is correlated with a higher degree of impulsivity. So you have you're more impulsive, right?
With cortisol level high or low?
No, it changes. It changes in the cortisol level. So you're more impulsive in intemporal choices. Drug addicts tend to have lower levels of cortisol than the general population, which may explain why they seem to discount the future. They discount the future because they want what they want today.
Now, but negative they're less stressed about it.
Yeah, negative effects that the drugs take. So this is science. It's just understanding how your brain works. The neurotransmitters, the chemicals in your brain, how they affect your decision making and stuff like that. It's very important because, like she said, people study this so that they can benefit from you.
Yeah, they can exploit you.
They can exploit you. They know that you're going to make a decision based on fear or scarcity, lack. Doubt, and they say we can see what kind of decisions you're going to make. And you're going to make a poor decision because you make a decision of uncertainty.
In a previous show, Simon had explained to you guys that energy is not destroyed.
Yeah.
Right? Money is economic energy. It is simply transferred. So wealth is never destroyed. When you hear that 60 billion was liquidated off the market, it's not destroyed. It didn't disappear. It was transferred to other entities.
Yeah, that is the first law of thermodynamics. Energy can neither be created or destroyed, only transferred.
Only transferred. So I say that because the whole purpose of the psychological study is how can we transfer wealth from the everyday common man to a minority? Right? Hence the 1%.
That's a tough one.
So when we're doing these shows, when we're doing these studies, and like I said, we've been married for over 20 years. And a lot of the things we do are absolutely boring as hell. Like, I'm going to be honest with y'all. It is a very fulfilling marriage. I love it. I love my partner. But all of the stuff that you guys see on TV that they program for you guys, no, this is what we do. We sit and we do these scientific studies. We learn, we try to figure out so we can find the arbitrage wherever it may be. And a lot of that is, so we're in when we say market, the crypto market at this point. He spent a significant amount of time on the traditional stock market. And once crypto started coming up, he kind of transferred from the traditional stock market to precious metals and cryptocurrency. It's understanding the market, because cryptocurrency is still tied to the regular stock market. And the stock market is based on a abstract psychological mindset.
It is, yes.
Right? What happens when the economy starts to take a downturn? People panic. What happens when people panic? They sell. Okay, and entities who are looking for the arbitrage make money in downturns. They make money in crashes.
Yeah.
They make a significant amount of wealth when everyone else is panicking.
Mm-hmm.
How you spend your economic energy, your monetary energy, also says how you consume assets.
Right. We talked about that in the last show. It was a mathematical formula where, and I didn't pull it up, but CT, if you look at it, CT is consumption.
Consumption.
It's consumption. They have consumption in the mathematical formula so that they can figure out people, the everyday people, how
down
they consume.
to a science.
Yes, it's a science. It's a mathematical formula. It's a science. Neuroeconomics, behavioral economics, behavioral finance. They are looking how people behave when they spend their money, and they're making a science behind it, and they know what people are going to do and what they're not going to do.
So I'm going to say, y'all are going to be mad, especially if this is what you do. The trading platforms. The trading platforms are exploiting lack of knowledge, lack of expertise, high time preference. That's how they make their money.
High time preference.
Right? Wow. When we tell traders who start coming to us, pay $792 a month for this platform so you can make $110 a day, we say our strategy is dollar cost averaging. Why don't people like the dollar cost average? Because it requires work. It requires you to stay on top of it. It requires you to manage it. It requires you to take an extra responsibility most people don't feel like taking, because that too creates a neural pathway in your brain, which requires a work.
And what I want to talk about too, we're talking about neuroeconomics, and we can go in deeper about it if you guys want to, but it's neuroscience in general, right? So a couple people I'd shout out if you guys were interested looking at it is Dr. Joe Dispenza. So you check him out. He's real good at neuroscience, just decision making. That's what it's about. Now we had shredded out to decision making about economics, but he's going to break down overall decision making. Also, Dr. Bruce Lipton.
Right.
They will break down decision making.
He's great.
The neural pathways that she says that you build in your brain. This is very important so that you understand the stuff that you see and decisions you make by what you're seeing and propaganda that you're being fed and how you make your decisions. This is neuroscience. I'm fascinated by it, so I'm always, looking it up and talking about it and stuff like that. We just wanted to streamline it down to economics and how you invest and stuff like that. But you might just want to look into it as far as your decision making on everyday life decisions.
Right, and just to rewire the brain and the way you think. If you're someone who says, I'm just trying to make it through today, cut that out of your vocabulary.
Get that out of there, man.
Get that sentence out of there.
Gotta get that out of there.
I'm just trying to make it.
Old school. Remember, you used to talk to everybody. You say, you ask a brother what's going on. He say, maintaining. Get that out of your vocabulary.
Or I remember back in the 90s, you say, what's up? You say, man, I can't call it. You can't call it because you can't see it. And if you can't see it, you can't make a decision on it. And if you can't make a decision on it, a lot of times people won't make any decision. You're just staying in the same place. So just understanding that we're talking about these things for economic arbitrage, but that economic arbitrage is significantly linked to how you maintain your household, how you parent your children, grandchildren, how you approach work, right? If you have a job, if you have a career, how you approach your friends.
Yes.
Right? And you're like, well, what does that have to do with? I'm telling you, your responses and your reactions literally are going to be the same response and reaction that permeate the course of all aspects of your life. So it's important to And we're not telling you, get a PhD in neuroeconomics. No one's telling you that. But look into it so that you can understand how you make decisions.
Mm-hmm.
Because this is going to be, it's going to vary from person to person. Now, there is a collective whole that they're able to study down to a science,
Yep.
but you're not concerned with the collective whole. You're just concerned with you.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Sit down with your significant other, find a partner, find a friend, and you guys just look into the basics of this to just increase your knowledge and say, you know what? That's true. If I play Candy Crush and I beat the board, that is a level of dopamine. But I did want to use something as simple as that.
Okay.
Because the way the little candy sound and the bell rings and all of the noise that happens, you feel like you won something. You didn't win anything. You just wasted the last 47 minutes of the day playing Candy Crush. But understand that reaction, that response happens everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to bring it up, but that reaction, that dopamine also comes when people find opportunities by taking them. When I say taking them, I mean like, I saw this house on the hill. I know that they're not home, and I'm going to go in there and take their belongings. Vince Carter's house had gotten broken into, and they went and stole $100,000 out of a bag in a closet. How did they know it was there? I'm sure they worked in there. But they had that dopamine high when they went and broke at that man's house with his wife and children in there.
Mm-hmm.
So just kind of understanding your own psychological makeup. They did the work for you. Just kind of study it. You want to study it like a guide.
Yeah, you want to study it like she's saying, it's just your mental makeup, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's very important that you understand your own mental makeup and when you make decisions. And so that you don't make decisions hastily and stuff like that. You just say, oh, okay, I can make informed decisions. Understand how your brain works. Understand the parts of your brain that activate when you're making certain decisions.
Mm-hmm.
Understand the neurotransmitters, like we said, dopamines, cortisol, serotonin.
Mm-hmm.
Understand the different neurotransmitters that play a part in your decision making.
Right.
Because really, like I said, we're not going to bring you a whole bunch of technicals and stuff like that, but we're just giving you perspective on how to think about things.
Right. When the market takes a downturn, do you panic? Do you understand the market enough to kind of see what your time preference actually looks like? Have you been able to put yourself in a position by planning and preparing in order to have a lower time preference? Right? That's the whole point in studying the neuroeconomics. Do I even know what this looks like?
Mm-hmm.
Do I know what it should look like? I use the word wealth blueprint all the time because a blueprint takes a significant amount of time to build.
Yeah.
It's not something that you just kind of zigzaggy draw up and it's done. No, it takes planning, it takes adjustment, readjustment, but it takes a level of self-awareness and understanding of what it is you're trying to do in order to build it. When we go to build a physical thing, you typically hire an architect. Why? Because he's a professional. He knows what's required, what materials are required, how long things are going to take, what the budget looks like. That's why you hire a professional. When you are building your own wealth, you are not paying somebody to build that wealth for you. Right. This is now your responsibility. So you have to master these different aspects of your life in order to, like I said, even just create the plan. You didn't even initiate it yet.
Yeah.
Just to get the plan built. And all of that is mindset. Right? It's a lot more than, I hear a lot of people, and people think just buying a crypto is enough. And I'm like, look at the market. If you were doing well when Bitcoin was at 70,000, how you doing now? Right? Did you do additional things in order to, or did you think that's all that it required? Right? Are you purchasing the crypto in a dollar cost average way to mitigate your losses over time? Or did you take $70,000, just throw it in there because I don't feel like having to keep up with it every single day until the money is invested properly in the crypto?
Yeah, because I come across a few people who have enough money to buy a whole crypto. I'm sorry, a whole Bitcoin.
Yeah, a whole bill, sorry.
And I say, well, and they ask me, what's the best way to buy it? And I say, well, just over time, if you got whatever the price of the Bitcoin was, if you have it all right now, and you buy it right now, it works if it goes up. But if it goes down, you're taking a loss. I say, just buy it over time. And people don't want to be bothered with
But this is this is what
Yeah,
we
they
were
don't want to be
explaining to you. This is
involved
the
in. They don't want to be
psychology.
involved
You're
in.
mitigating significant loss over time when you take your time to do it
Yep.
versus gaining the whole coin now. And then when it goes down, you've taken a significant loss. So dollar cost averaging is basically helping with the time discounting.
It's time discounting, your temporal time frame, your intertemporal choices,
and it's lowering your time preference.
Yeah, because we gotta get down to this. These people, I don't say these people. People are making a science of how mentally you think, and they understand how to market stuff to you and do things so that it's in their benefit.
Absolutely.
It's in their benefit. And this stuff is real. This neurotransmitter, this is real. This stuff is real, so people should take it seriously. We didn't want to keep you too long.
But we did.
We did keep you too long. Is it more that we need to talk about? I mean, I could read off more stuff. If you guys want to know, hit me up.
Yeah, if you want to continue this conversation, let us know.
Yeah,
if not, we'll move on to the next.
Yeah, but remember, neuroeconomics. Look it up. Check it out. It's just really the study of how people make decisions in investing, but even how they spend their money.
Right. And look into the Time magazine observation of the black women in the 50s, because that was nothing more than them wanting to extract wealth from a community they no longer had access. Because what was happening is they're paying the black women, they're paying the black men as skilled labor. The money was leaving the white community, going into the black community.
Yeah.
And it was circulating there hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times.
Yeah.
So they realized that and said, we got to find a way to extract that wealth again.
Yeah.
And they did the Time magazine study. I want to bring up one more thing. Jay-Z used to wear whatever he used to wear. He used to wear Fendi, Louis, Gucci, Rock, whatever he had going on. When you see him now, you never see a label on his shirt. And I'm bringing this up because we have a tendency to think when we make it, we take our wealth and we're giving it to legacy families to show other people that we made it. That's not necessary. Right? The proof is in the pudding. People can look at you as a family. You can have a regular car, regular dog, regular clothes.
Yeah.
And still realize, like, yeah, y'all are doing really well. You may not be wearing you may not be drinking Ace of Spades, $1,000 a bottle, but I can tell that you guys are doing well as a family. It's not what it's about.
Yeah, that's the old saying, keeping up with the Joneses.
Right. The shirt that Jay-Z wears that has no label on it, the quality is just as good as a Fendi, Gucci, Louis. It may even cost the same. But this isn't about, but it's probably something that he's like, I want this to be my own. You want to get a $2,000 Fendi bag? I would rather you take that $2,000, get your own bag made with the materials that Fendi would use, than giving it to a legacy family.
Yeah. I mean,
have your name on it. You can still get the same quality. Maybe you can get the quality for cheaper, because I'm sure that all of these high-end, we travel to these countries. They are not being made in the United States. They're made in sweatshops with children and women, right? So the materials that it costs to make them is not what you guys actually think it is. Right. So that shouldn't be a symbol of freedom. I want some brains to get rewired. That's not a symbol of freedom.
Yeah, we're gonna do a show on symbol of freedom. That's gonna be her show. She gonna knock that out the box, because that's a pet peeve.
But it's a way that you consume. When you go to these Michelin star restaurants, you're getting just a little bit of food that was well done by a chef who probably spent a lot of money to become the chef that he is. You're going to be hungry when you leave that restaurant. So we're saying have some experiences, but just understand, how are you consuming and how are you accumulating? And change the balance of that. Because they're programming you to consume till there's nothing left.
Right.
And then that wealth is just transferred to the state or wherever it is that you live. A lot of times it doesn't even go to families, doesn't go to your family. So we want to change the game on the programming. When you leave America's airspace, it sits with you. Because we already know the game, but it sits with you where you don't want to consume like that anymore. Right? This chicken tastes just as good as this chicken. I don't have to pay 5 times the price for it because the name such and such is on it.
Right.
So we just want to, start looking into how we think, how we react. Do I make informed decisions? Do I panic? Do I take too long to make a decision? Because that's just as bad as being impulsive.
Mm-hmm.
I've missed the opportunity. I waited too long because I was scared.
Yeah, because decision making, you want to be decisive. If you're not making decisions, if you're kind of like, well, I'll see you later. No, you want to be decisive in your decisions. And so this is just a study of the neuroscience in the brain of how you make decisions and how you even feel rewarded by the different neurotransmitters that are expelled, right? Is that it?
Yeah.
While making decisions. And you may make a decision because you want that neurotransmitter. So you have to look at how you make your decisions. How do you make your decisions?
My other question would be, if the principle on the decision making collectively is fear, uncertainty, doubt, people are scared because of the unknown. Uncertainty means you don't know. Doubt means you're not sure because you don't know. At the end of the day, the common denominator, the overarching theme is, I am not informed on this.
You're not informed enough to make the correct decision.
But did you make the effort to inform yourself?
Well, then that's a personal question that people have.
But a lot of times when you start talking to people and you start asking them, you formed an opinion on something. I'm talking to you casually. I can tell you have no idea what you're talking about. You have this whole opinion formed. And then when people come in and, tilt your crown a little bit, straighten it out, you're like, oh, well, you're right. I didn't know that. Did you look?
Right.
I know it's obnoxious to ask these questions to people. Did you read about it? Did you check to make sure the sources? We don't even get to the source part because you haven't looked at it at all. Yeah. And in this day and age, people make decisions based on what they feel and not what the information actually says or what the statistics say, or I hear a lot of bad narratives, and I'm like, the statistics don't say that. And if the statistics don't say that, then it can't be that. Well, I feel like, because when I go to Kroger, this is what I see. You go to Kroger in Walnut Hills, ma'am. You don't even go to Kroger in Hyde Park. You can't base that on what you feel. That's not what the statistics say.
Yeah, and we hear a lot of this stuff because we live in different countries. People are, I think it's dangerous in Mexico.
Have you ever been there?
I said, I said, well, it's dangerous in America, but we understand that.
I don't even get there. I just ask, when you visited Mexico, where did you go? I've never been to Mexico.
Right.
Then how do you know it's dangerous? Because they said so on the news.
People are always telling us, be careful. And we're like, well, and it's not just Mexico. We've been in other places, and they're like, be careful, be careful. I said, well, it's very dangerous in America, I mean, so...
Talk about that Kroger. You may want to have it brought to your house.
It's dangerous out there, man. I never call anybody and say, hey, be careful with this, that. I mean, we checking on our people and make sure everybody's doing okay. But people, like, it's almost like, what would you say?
What, baby?
They're putting
they project their fears.
Yeah, they're projecting their fears on us. Like, well, don't be cartels down there. I said, okay.
Bitcoin. I'm sure a lot of you Bitcoiners get fear projected onto you all the time. Bitcoin's going to go to nothing. Bitcoin is this. Bitcoin is that. Yeah. And the more you talk to that person, you're like, you have no idea what Bitcoin is, do you? But you have all of these opinions on what it is, right? So we're really trying to kind of dial down into, you guys have a set plan. You guys are not like other people. Right? You said you want the technical stuff. We were worried this is boring. This is what we do in the privacy of our home. We spend about 2 to 3 hours every single day, and we're studying something. Right? And it's typically psychological. Mindset's my whole thing. So that's his approach in order to kind of help.
Yeah, mindset and science. Mindset and science. I love science.
And it just happens to be a good pairing. But at the same time, it's just understanding you have to do something you've never done. We didn't do this in the first part of our marriage. We didn't know. We were 20 years old when we got married. We didn't know anything. And we're like, second part of the marriage, we're going to start studying some stuff. We're going to know things. We're going to make more informed decisions. We're going to be informed as parents. We're not going to parent the way our parents did, right? No shade. Love our parents. They did the best that they could, but we're going to do better. And we want our children to do better than we did. All of the stuff that we missed, they're going to make more informed parenting. Financially, it's got to be more informed. How we consume, which is how we spend the assets, we're going to be more informed. How we generate income, got to be more informed so we can find the arbitrages, especially as Black people traveling in other countries and still trying to generate income from the United States, because that is the better leveraged financial instrument.
Yeah, it is. It definitely is, and that's what we're talking about. I mean,
and we don't talk to you guys about anything we do not practice, we do not do on our own.
Yeah. Well, we're always going to talk about the arbitrage, right? You want to have assets. We always want to have assets. That's a big thing. But the arbitrage, look for the arbitrage. Look for the arbitrage that will benefit you. We don't know,
what custom fits you.
Yeah, we don't know what custom. That's a great term. We don't know what custom fits you. We don't know how you know what it is that you're doing. Find the arbitrage. There is an arbitrage out here that you could benefit from and do very well. You don't have to suffer in the United States. I see people suffering over there, just living in poor conditions, paying too much for a certain housing and stuff like that. I said you can go somewhere else and you don't have to suffer. And people will try to tell you like, well, they're running. I said no, it's a chess move. It's just a chess move. Move your chess piece to a better square, right? That's what you would do if you're playing a game of chess and somebody was pushing down on your queen. You would move your queen to a
queen, y'all.
Yeah, you're gonna move your queen to a better square. And so move to a better square, right?
Move me to a better square, y'all.
Move to a better square. I talk to a lot of people who live in cities that I'm not big on. St. Louis, Chicago,
New York,
and
the Bronx. Brooklyn, Queens.
Yeah. And I say, I know you guys like where you live, but take the opportunity to get that arbitrage.
And let it be custom fit for you. We're a very large family.
You gotta go.
So because we're such a large family, and I know a lot of families have a lot of extended family help, we don't. We don't have any extended family help. So a lot of the things we have to do has to be different in order to give our four Black sons. That's what we have. So that means we're bringing in 4 Black men into the world, and we have to set them up with the highest advantage possible for Black men in order to kind of take off and build on that, in order when they bring their Black kings in and their Black queens into the world, we can keep replicating the process. So we have to do things different. Right? Obviously, it's not easy to raise a Black family in Mexico where no one looks like you. No one's interested in helping you. They help each other. They're not interested in helping us. They're more, they treat us well, but they like the white people better. Right? I'm just keeping it real with y'all. This is the experience. This is the truth. They're more community based when white people live in a community. When we're a tribe, he's not married to a Mexican woman, I'm not married to a Mexican. There's no assimilation there. They're not interested in helping in any way other than to take whatever we're willing to give. So we have to operate differently. And that is going to be the experience of a lot of Black families. I can't speak for the single people. For a lot of Black families who are traveling abroad, you are your own tribe. They can feel that, right? You're not like them. They're not like you. There's no assimilation there. It can make it a little bit difficult. So you have to be able to responsibly take care of yourself. And I'm just telling y'all the truth. There's no malice in it. There's nothing bad in it. They don't mistreat us here in Mexico or anything like that. But there's no community for us either.
Yeah, I mean, we can do a show about that too.
There's no community for us. Whatever they can get from us is what they're willing to take.
Right, because there's different tactics you could take, right? Because if you went to another country and if you're single and you decide to assimilate and
mix and mingle and be
amongst them, then you have a different experience. Yeah. We came as a whole family. There was no mixing and mingling. So it's you get a different, you receive differently. Right.
And they kind of don't like it. They don't tell you that.
Because I roll out a lot of times, and I roll out with her a lot of times, and I try to talk to people, and I say, my wife, she speaks Spanish better than me.
They think I'm Mexican.
They think I got a Mexican wife, and I don't. So
And when I show up,
she just
everybody's
speaks better.
disappointed.
She just speaks better Spanish than I do. And so, yeah, they're disappointed. But that's what I'm saying. We roll as a tribe. So keep that in mind. If you go out of here, you go out here single.
And be okay with that, right? Be proud of your tribe. Y'all
but,
roll tough.
Nah, but just be strategic. Make these chess moves. If you're moving as a single person, you're moving as a family. If you're willing to get involved and integrate yourself, be okay with that. Just be okay. But it's different. It's different situations.
But Americans leave America with the idea that everywhere in the world is a melting pot. No, you're going to other people's country. Yeah, right? So we knew coming here, because like I said, my family's from another country. Yeah, if I go to Guyana, they're going to look at me as a Yankee. They don't even see me as a Guyanese. And that's, you know what I'm saying?
What they going to call me?
A Yankee. We'll be Yankees. I can do the accent. I can cook the food. I can do all the stuff. I'm still a Yankee. And you would be a Yankee too. Okay. Or a double A, African American. But, just understand that they wouldn't welcome us either like that. We would be a whole separate tribe in a homogeneous situation. So understand when you're traveling, don't travel with an American mindset. Just got to open your mind a little bit. Understand how they think so that you could adjust your thinking. Yeah,
because she said something very important about being homogeneous, because America's a melting pot.
Kind of.
That's what they tell us. Yeah. That's what they told us. So we work with it. But when you go to these other countries, they're not melting pots. They're just all one.
Whatever that country is, that's how they see themselves. Whatever that country is. And then when you come in, and when you get out here and you're traveling, it's not about race. It's about nationality. And so... Right, you go to Colombia, it's a lot of black people in Colombia, but it's a us versus them kind of thing.
Yeah, because I talked to a dude, he said, I'm not black, I'm Colombian. I'm like, oh, okay. I said, okay.
He's black as we are, but you just have to understand in Spanish, he's looking at you like, what are you talking about? Yeah, because to them, you're not black, you're American. No, in America, we black.
Yeah, so it's...
You don't understand they don't understand it. You have to understand it so you can move different.
So you can move different. She's very, very, very right about that.
We're telling you the truth.
Because you go somewhere and somebody will straight up tell you, I'm not black, I'm Dominican. I say, okay, well, that's fine. I mean, you look like me, you look darker than me, but it becomes about your nationality more than it is your race. Right. So just keep that in mind if you decide to go out here and...
Mix and mingle.
Right,
just understand how these things are set up, their psychological setup, so that you could adjust yours and make the moves that you need to make. And not feel away when things don't. Right? That's just what it is.
What I always like to say is just don't take it personal. Yeah, you go over here, somebody like, I'm not with you, That's okay, don't take it personal. I don't take it personal.
There's no Pan-Africanism, if that's what you guys thought. And the biggest Pan-Africanist really don't travel much, so they can have the ideology, but they don't understand the reality.
And we can do a show on we can do a show on that too, because
that's our experience.
Because we've had some problem with
that's our experience.
Some of the Pan-Africanists.
I'm West Indian, but I ride for my American husband. My children are American. We work together. We understand what it is, but I do understand if I took him to Guyana, I would be embarrassed. Because they wouldn't treat us well.
I'm embarrassing?
I would be embarrassed.
I'm embarrassing?
No, I would be embarrassed that you see that's how my people operate. I would be embarrassed.
I ain't tripping.
Right? Because they wouldn't accept us.
I ain't tripping.
So my mom lived in this house, right in this geographical plot of land here in this country is where she was born. But you weren't born here. You don't belong here.
No.
So, I got you. No. But that's science, right? Because in science, something that's foreign stands out, right? If you get a cold, that's something foreign that entered your body didn't like it didn't react well. When you go to these other countries, people can be welcoming, they can be nice, and this and that, but understand you're still not one of them. We're black in America, we're not even really wanted there, and that's where we're from. Like, let's be honest.
Yeah, you're right about that. I mean,
you can go back how many 6, 10, 12 generations in the United States. You still a black man, and they will get you if they have the opportunity. They do not consider you American. They'll consider the Italians Americans. They'll consider the Germans Americans, the Polish Americans. They won't consider you American.
Well, but that's the arbitrage. Once you move around your passport, you are American. And the
Outside of America, yes.
laws are written that you had to be treated as American, whether you black, white, whatever you are. You have to be treated.
And we're still talking about psychological makeups. I know it
such.
sounds like we've digressed, and we haven't. We're still talking about other people's psychological makeup, yours, how the two will behave with each other in these groups, and you do want to see it like a science experiment so that you can adjust.
You have to have.
But we done kept y'all too long.
Yeah, we done kept y'all too long. I mean, I'm sorry, y'all. We're trying to give you some good game today. We will be back with you on Wednesday, and scientific notation coming on Wednesday.
Yes, because we didn't forget.
Because that's a pet peeve of mine, so we're gonna get at that. But yeah, it's a pet peeve of mine. Scientific notation. We're gonna talk about some numbers, y'all. So it's good talking to you.
We love y'all. Thank y'all for your comments, your email. Shout out to Don, because I know you said you wanted us to go in. We went in.
We tried to. I tried to.
We're gonna continue to go in. If the conversation gets way too technical and you do want more like simpler conversations, just let us know. And like I said, we're piloting this. This is something that he would usually do for me. I said, let's see if we can do it in front of the camera so they can get the mentoring as well. I'm hoping you enjoy it. I love my mentoring sessions, and I'm sharing it with y'all when I could be selfish about it.
Yeah. So,
But we love y'all. We'll see y'all on Wednesday.
Wednesday, yes, indeed.
All right, y'all.
Scientific notation.
Scientific notation. Bye, y'all.